Hello, the game has just started and it's my opponent to go first. I have a pretty tricky rack. Tricky to sort out in one go. I have Pawnee on my rack, which retains the V, but does sort out most of the rest of the rack. I'd like to play off one of the ends, the V and the Y. I can't do that with the tiles I have, but I may be able to do that through a floater. Good start for my opponent. 46 points. Has he helped me with what I want to achieve? Can I get rid of the N, V and Y? Don't think I can. Only one vowel, the U, isn't particularly helpful. I'm just considering unwords. Can't see anything there. Nowhere great for Pawnee. Well, this is a really tricky opening rack. I'm just wondering if it's bad enough to change. What do I have through that U? Now, is punny good? I think it is. And this, if this is good, it's certainly better than changing. If it's not, it's a howling blunder. But I won't be too upset if it comes off, because this is an awful second rack. The UV combination is bad, and I've also got two other high scoring tiles. Great, my opponent's changed, so he's not zooming ahead. I note that my B can go in front of the Y. So I could play BUHR. That would be better than changing. Now, what about playing in row I underneath the J? I've got the O for going underneath the J. Through an A, I would have Havia, but no floating vowels on this board. I'm hesitating slightly about Bure in case I'm confusing it with Buell. They may both be good. But in any event, IVO is not a great rack leave. I'm looking in column 6 to see if I can place one of my high scoring tiles on this triple letter square. Can't see a good way of doing that. Maybe I should change. Well, except Bure is certainly going to be better if it's good. And there's not many floating vowels on the board, so the excess of vowels in this rack leave isn't as bad as it could be. Ah, well, there are the vowels. And this is another very tricky rack to deal with. I do have the V for score, so a play of VIAE, keeping AIO may be better than changing. I've also got Vitae in column 6, making pi, na and n. Ah, exactly where my opponent has gone. For 39 points. That's pretty annoying. And he hasn't provided much for me. I could play Ohio through the H for 14 points. That's going to be better than changing. I'm just wondering if I can play in column 7, which would involve putting the A here. So I could play via, but I don't want to keep 4 vowels. That's a little bit ridiculous and inviting trouble. 3 vowels may be justifiable. Well, if I put my A here, then I would have to place an A next to PE as well, which isn't going to happen. So what if I had an O here? £21 points, but that's an awful rack leave. I could play Zoe across here. Zoe for 16 points. VII. Yeah, well, this is better than changing. And it's better than the oat play. Can I do better than either? I've got 40 minutes on my clock, 70 tiles left, so this has been a really slow start. But necessarily so, given the trickiness of the racks. I'm going with this. Great, five eyes. Wonderful. Well, I've been tempted to change on most of my moves so far. I think this is probably a good enough rack to change with. 5 eyes. Not sure if I've ever had that before. 37 points for my opponent. He's now got a 60-point lead, so I am in trouble. And this is definitely a change. And I'm going to change all 7. There might be an argument for keeping DI, but I am behind, and I'd like to increase my chances of drawing a blank. Well, I don't draw one of the blanks, and I don't have a great rack. I do have scoring tiles in the W and the F, so I don't think this is a changing rack. My opponent changes 1. He's could well be very close to a bingo. I can see that I can play waif. But that's keeping 3 vowels. I can also play wife down here. Well, that might be worth doing. Let me have a look at this. Awful rack leave. 35 points is a very good score. I can't see a way of scoring more in column 11. I can't see a way of scoring anything like that anywhere else. Way too many vowels. I can see ovate on my rack, which may be a way to resolve this rack. I could play that underneath the Y of jutty. Just waiting for my opponent to bingo, given that he changed just the 1 tile. And row O is a good spot. If Bure is good, it will take an S at the end. Pretty blocked board otherwise. There's the row I bingo lane underneath the Y of jutty, but Zooey takes nothing after it, and the floating W and I of wife aren't great floaters. Well, the Y could be okay, but the W is unlikely. The trouble with over 8 under Jutty is that it doesn't score very much. It places an A next to a triple letter square, which is an easy scoring spot for my opponent. And it's burning 5 tiles, which is expediting the end of the game, which I don't want to happen because I'm behind. I'm wondering if I've got to play in row C through the W of wife. And which reaches the double word square. Nice bingo by my opponent. He blocks my ovate spot. I was just wondering about gavotte with a single T. I don't think that's good. Now I'm 100 points behind. I'd quite like to keep the board open. But row O is quite tempting. I could play a gave in that spot, but that burns the E and keeps duplicate O, so that's not great. So can I play off an O, an A, and a V through that G? 11 minutes left, 53 tiles, so I'm short on time. Well, I can't see a way of playing through that G. Well, I don't have to burn the V. My priority is balancing the vowels and consonants. So I could play Vega in row O, 24 points. And I certainly don't have to play in that row. Wow, this is one of the trickiest opening series of racks I've faced in a while. Now, how bad is this? 19 points is good. It's playing off the duplicates. It's still imbalanced, but it's keeping the board wide open. Yeah, I'm going to go with this. Or am I? What about vote in column 12? 28 points. Well, this does open the board up because it opens column 13 and it doesn't provide a ridiculously easy scoring spot for my opponent, so I am going to go with this. 4 A's, not great, and I draw the second V. I do have Ava on my rack. Wife takes a D at the end. I can't see a way of playing off 3 vowels and using that. I think this may be another changing rack. Just can't see any way of either resolving this rack or scoring enough to justify a poor rack leave. And changing does minimise tile turnover, as in playing tiles. I don't think I have anything through the G of any merit. And I can't play in column 13 putting anything after... I've got nothing to go after WO apart from the O. I then do have an A for going after IT, but that's the end of the story. I don't have any words beginning OA or beginning OAD. Just wondering if there is anywhere for Ava. And I can't see anywhere. If I do change, I'm inclined to keep... Well, I was going to say an A and a D. An A is worth keeping because it's bingo-y and there's only 2 in the bag. And I would keep the D with it to balance the vowels and consonants, although there are 3 Ds to come. So it's either a case of changing all 7 or changing 5 and keeping AD. I think keeping AD is better. I'm still looking around for scoring opportunities on this board. The biggest downside of changing is the 0 score, and I'm 74 points behind with my opponent on turn. So I'm probably looking at being over 100 behind and then changing, which is not a good position to be in. I do have wood in row C. Quite a lot of 7s and 8s end wood, but nothing that I've got. "12 minutes on my opponent's clock, 9 on mine." Yep, nice bingo by my opponent. He has provided a spot for Ava, parallel to La, but then the rack leave of AADO is ropey, and I'm only getting 13 odd points, so I'm going to change. Why didn't that work? Okay, that's worked. No, it hasn't. So I want to change the tiles. These are the tiles I want to change. And then I click done. Great, that has worked. Well, an awful rack, but it illustrates the merits of keeping AD. I drew 5 consonants. If I changed AD as well, I could be looking at 7 consonants. Now I have flawn on my rack. Nowhere to play it. Good score for my opponent. He's piling on the pressure, as indeed he should do. So, what to do here? I don't have anything for going after Om. My F can go after the I of nostril. And certainly that would be better than changing. I'm pretty much in the position now where the game is lost. I'm 170 points behind. So I probably ought to be thinking of scoring with a view to minimising the losing score. And I've only got 7 minutes left. The trouble with fall is that it stops one square short of the double letter square. I'm just wondering if I should keep that open and play off my W somewhere. So I could play Nor down here. £24 points, not great. Just wondering if there's anywhere better for my W. Can't see anywhere. Well, I don't have a 5-letter play beginning with the F, and I've now got the Q to deal with. Actually, I do. I have fills, which is good if that stays available. That would score really well, about 50 points. But there isn't a huge number of openings on this board, so my opponent could well block that. However, if he does, I could play Fids and Bures for over 30 points. My opponent does take that spot. I've got the Q. 1 U to come, 3 I's to come. But if I play Fids down here, then I am providing somewhere for the Q above that I. Probably better to play fills. Splits up the duplicate and also keeps the D, which can make caddy and cade. That's 35 points, which is a good score. And I don't think I can play my Q off anywhere for anything like that. There are several spots for the Q, all next to I's, the Eye of Fills, the King and Uria. Well, another rack from hell. I've got caddy in row M onto the Eye of Uria. "26 tiles in the bag, 5 minutes on my clock. I'm looking around for alternative spots to play my Q. Well, it's not a Q play, but I do have dark in row O for over 30 points. And that might be worth doing because I do have 2 spots for the Q where the Q can be doubled. Well, my opponent's gone in the dark spot. So I think caddy is the play, or cade rather. Any other Q spots? Don't think so. More misery. I'm 130 points behind, 20 tiles in the bag. Through an I would have Kidlit. Through an A, I would have Diktat. A nice spot in column 15 for if my opponent has an E for a 4-letter play. Okay, my opponent momentarily went, but he's back. Really nothing going for me with this move, or this game in fact. IO takes an N and an S after it. I have neither. K can be a good scoring tile. It would be nice to split up my duplicates there, which involves playing the D and the T. Remaining tiles pretty bingo-y. So I probably ought to avoid opening the board up, because I don't have a bingo-y rack and my winning prospects are 0. So all I would achieve by opening the board up would be to increase the likelihood of my opponent winning with a bigger margin. Now, can I place one of my D's after wife? Well, I can. I could play Tid right where my opponent's blocked. Nice play, just 12 points. Bocky may take an S after it. It doesn't take anything else. I can't play in column 8 because I have nothing to go in front of B. So that's a pretty blocky move by my opponent. Very few vowels on the board that are available. Four minutes left, 16 tiles in the bag, so I could be getting into time trouble. I'm wondering about playing, to see if I have a 4 or 5 letter play beginning WO. Trim is good. Can't see such a play. I could play Vild up here, which would obstruct my opponent playing down column 15, 16 points. Not great, but I am short on time. Well, a few more vowels. I'm wondering if I've got a play in row H through the T of nostril. Can't see anything there. I've blocked Toke at A15. I do have an over going in front of the B of Bocky. But don't have anything other than a 2-letter play in that spot. I can play Not in row N, placing my K next to the N of Theking. That would leave DWEET. That stays available. 25 points for my opponent. And 22 for me. I draw the blank. I've got the F of fills in column 1. Possibly for a word ending self or leaf. And I've got the first 3 letters of Bocky as floaters. And there's the A of Zoe available for a 8-letter bingo beginning with A. Can't see anything. There are 6 tiles in the bag. So if I could open the board up, 2 tiles in the bag, I may be able to bingo. And that is worth doing now because the odds in favour of bingoing are in my favour. But do I have a bingo with this rack? Do I have an IC ending word? Can't see it, if there is one. So what to play off and where? 2 tiles in the bag, so I'm looking to play off 1 tile. Just wondering if I have a bingo through that B as it stands. Editable doesn't quite work. Delibate doesn't quite work. Probably quite hard because UBL words don't fit. So it would need to be something like diatribe. So I think the E is the letter to play, but where? Probably just anywhere which doesn't block a bingo lane. 2 minutes left. I don't think I'm going to be able to open a new bingo lane. Well, I think I'll just play here to maximise my thinking time. I draw the M, that looks handy. Do I have anything beginning with the A of Zoea? I have Adamsite. Great. Hopefully that stays available. And do I have anything through the B, O, or C of Bocky? Well, I may do. The B doesn't look particularly hopeful. What about the O? It would need to end in O, so that's unlikely but not impossible. The C is probably the best bet. Now, what about dramatic? Is that a legitimate anagram of time card? I think it is. I think it is. So I have dramatic, I have Adamsite. I don't think my opponent can block both. Is there an alternative to dramatic which I'm more sure of? I'm just mentally running through the alphabet. Haven't seen anything yet. Well, that's blocked. Adamsite isn't. The blank falls on the premium square. £60 points. Actually, I probably ought to have seen if I had a bingo beginning at A1, ending in G. But just thinking about that, it would probably involve the blank being an N, and I don't think there was one there. So, the final score, 323 to me, 441 to my opponent, a winning margin of 118 points to him. So, well done to my opponent. Let's see what I missed. Easy to feel sorry for yourself when you've been on the end of a drubbing, and to blame the tile gods, but let's see if I did the best I can with what I had. This was my opponent's opening rack. Nice start for him with Jutty. This is what I had, and Punny is good and looks fine. Horrible rack for my opponent, so it wasn't just me. Now this is my rack. I played Bure for 25. I could have played Bow for 23, but that keeps the UV combination and scores less, so I prefer my play. And nothing else jumps out as being better, and certainly Bure better than changing. My opponent's rack, he plays Zeta. And now, here, this was troublesome. What did I do? I played Zoea, which is down here at 16, keeping IIV. I certainly don't like keeping 4 vowels. There at N1, well, not great. It's just too open in terms of providing high scoring opportunities for my opponent. And I think the same applies for the other 2 moves as well. So actually Zoea, I think, is fine. My opponent's rack, he plays Zoo. This was my 5-eye horror show, and I think definitely changing better than any of these. My opponent's rack, he changed. Did he have anything? No. Well, he had Hinge for 33. Now, this is my rack. Wife, C11, that was my play. I didn't like keeping 2 A's, but the duplicate tile generally is worth about 5 points. So if I can get more than 5 points by keeping a duplicate, it is worth keeping the duplicate. And as you can see here, Wife outscores the next best move by 8 points. My opponent's rack, The King, nice bingo for him. Let's see what else he had. Well, a few alternatives. This was my rack. Well, a gay for 27 keeping Oot. I played Vote for 28 keeping AAO. Well, yeah, some of those other moves might be slightly better, but I don't think there's a lot in it, and Vote may actually be better. It doesn't open up anything or as much as the Agave play, which would have placed the E underneath this triple letter square. As it was, however, my opponent did have a bingo. He had Nostril, and this was my rack. A bit of a horror show. As you can see from these rack leaves, this was a really grim situation. Only 1 score over 20, and that would have kept 4 A's. So I think this is a definite change. My opponent's rack, he plays Rim. Now I have a lot of consonants, and I missed a bingo. Wow, Windfall at M6 through the eye of The King. Well done if you spotted that. It's very easy when you get a run of bad racks to, well, just to miss a low probability bingo. It's hard at the best of times to spot the low probability ones, but I think it becomes harder if you're behind and disconsolate from poor racks. But Windfall was there for 84 points. It would have brought me up to 100 behind. There were 39 tiles left. Anyway, I didn't play that. I played Nor instead, which was definitely inferior. My opponent played Uria. Now Cheese, H15, where's that? Cheese and Ios. I played Fitz for this 1 fewer point, keeping QLL. Yeah, probably not a great deal between those. My opponent has Vaccine. Nowhere to play it. And this was my rack. Cade looks best. My opponent's rack. Nice play of Bocky. And I played... Did I play Knit? No, I played Vild for 16, keeping DK, double T. Knit possibly a little bit better. Nice rack for my opponent. He had Agonized down from the A of Zoea. Didn't play it. He played Dong. My rack. What did I do here? Well, this is where I did play Not, I think, for 22. I could have played Re-Not for 2 more points. Not much between those plays. My opponent's rack. He doesn't have a bingo, but he's got a nice set of letters. He plays Idols for 32, a good score for him. And now this, my rack suddenly improved a lot, but too little too late. And I played Ted. I could have played Re and Donged. That certainly would have been better. And I could have played Re-Not, so there were better spots for just the E. My opponent's rack, he played gap, and then finally I played Adam's site, and I could have got 2 more points with either animated or acetamide. So pretty brutal game. I did miss Windfall. That was unlikely to have changed the outcome of the game. There was a run of poor racks, or most of my racks were pretty dreadful, but that will happen sometimes, and one's aim is simply to do the best one can with those racks, and the better you are, the fewer games you will have which have a long run of such horrors. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, if that's the right word, watching this video, and I will see you next time.